Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Mark, and today I'm going to review the file for this layered bear scene. Now, at first glance, you're probably going to think, wow, that is a lot of pieces. Well, there are a lot of optional pieces here, and I want to go over all of them with you because I think when you see all the choices you have here, you're really going to like it a lot. So don't get overwhelmed by the file. Let's go through it together. So first of all, from the far left, I'll zoom in here. You've got a number of choices to make before you start. The first thing you want to decide is whether you're going to hang this on a wall or whether you're going to have it stand up on its own, or if you want it to stand up using a slotted stand. So let's talk about the slotted stand option first. That's the two pieces right here on the far left. If you're going to do a slotted stand, the reason you might do this is a couple different reasons. Maybe you might do it if you're only going to use a handful of the layers. In other words, you're not going to use all 11 or 12 layers. You're going to maybe use 3 or 4 layers, and the bear might not be thick enough to stand on its own, and you don't want to hang it on the wall. So in that case, you might go ahead and use this slotted stand with this back piece right here that has a tab at the bottom. So if you're going to do that, what you're going to do is you're going to click on this slot right here, and we'll take a look at how thick that is or how big the slot is. It is 0.116 wide. So what you're going to do is you're going to measure your material with your calipers or with my free slot sizer and find out how thick this tab or this slot needs to be for your materials. If it's 0.116, that's awesome. You leave it alone. If it's not, then you need to make it thinner or thicker to fit your materials. So once you've done that, then you're ready to go forward. So once again, if you're going to use this base, you'll use this as the very back piece and then stack the other layers going up on top of this one. All right. So going from left to right, if you're not going to use this, you can just skip this or delete it or whatever you want to do. Don't delete it from the master file because you might want to come back to it later, but you don't need that piece. All right. These next 3 pieces represent a choice that some people might want to make. You want to make a layered scene, but you want to make just a couple layers. What I've done here is I've taken some of the layers that you'll see to the right here, and I've combined a few of them to go together to make what I think is the fewest number of layers that will still make this design pretty cool, okay? So for example, right here I've got some trees and the bear on one layer together. And this next one, I have a moose and several more trees together in the same layer. And then the last one is the mountain with the cutout that represents the snow cap on that mountain. This, in my opinion, is probably the fewest number of layers you'd want to do. So if you were going to use this, what you'd do is you'd use these 3 and then maybe the solid back piece way over at the far right of this file. But you can just use these 3 if you want, and that would be fine. So let me stop here for a second and teach you another little tip. If you're unsure which layers you want to use or what order you want to put them in this case, these 3 need to be, the bear needs to be front, this one needs to be second, and the mountain needs to be third. But let me show you something. If you select this guy right here and just give it any color you want, it doesn't matter. And what we want to do is go to the next one and again, pick another color just so we can see how it's layered. And the third one, and we'll pick another color. And then what you want to do is you want to drag these in the order that you might want to put them in so you can kind of see how the layers are going to look, okay? And that one's on the wrong side. It needs to be behind everything, so I'll just drag it behind. And now you can see, we'll turn it so you're not turning your head in a weird way. We'll turn it like this, and this is what 3 layers would look like if you laid them all together, okay? And of course, you'd align them. My OCD is going to have to align that completely there. Let's see, that's how a 3-layered piece would look, and that looks pretty cool. And you can do that if you want and just save yourself all the layers or the pieces of material if you want. But remember that you've got all kinds of options because all these pieces I'm going to show you to the right, every one of them are optional. Let's say you wanted to put this piece in the front because I like this one being in the front. I think it really makes it look good. So let's turn this one and we'll align it here just again like that. I'll align it there. And you'll see, I think that looks really nice as well. And of course, you'll paint them whatever colors you want. And by the way, I made it this way so that you could paint each layer one color. There's one exception at the end, but that way you could paint each layer one color and it would look really good. Now, I want to point out something. I'll undo a few times here. If you choose this option where there's just the 3 layers, you are going to be stuck with painting the bear the same color as the trees, unless you want to paint them by hand. You can certainly do that too. I like spray painting all the layers, and that makes it really easy just to spray paint it all one color. So I'm going to undo a bunch of times here, get these all back to where they were, and I'll leave them colored, and we'll just keep going. So going further to the right, these next 11 layers are just the maximum number of layers that you might want to use. In other words, you got this front piece and then you got the bear all by itself on this piece, right? Let me zoom in a little bit for you. You got the bear all by itself on this piece and then some trees on the piece behind that. And that allows you to paint this a green and then this next layer of trees a green. And by the way, this is the order I think you should put them in. You can omit layers, but don't change the order too much because you'll end up having some content that's behind something that you don't want, all right? So the bear's by itself, trees, and then we've got the moose, which you can leave that out if you want to. And then there's a third layer of trees, and then a cabin or a house here, followed by a low rolling hills. And then you've got the snow-capped mountain here. That part is cut out so that it looks like a snow cap. And then this is the one piece that I would recommend that you paint 2 different colors. And the reason is when you put it behind this one right here, you'll see the sun sticking up here. That it would be nice if it was yellow. And then the white piece behind here should be white. So that's the only part that I would paint yellow here and white there. Other than that, all the other pieces can be painted a single color for each layer. Now, listen really closely. This is easy, but I want to make sure you understand this last piece or these 2 pieces. If you are going to hang this on the wall, these 2 pink holes here are made so you can hang this with screws on the wall, all right? So if you're going to do that, you definitely want to cut these pieces. If you're not going to hang it on the wall, you can delete or ignore those holes, okay? And then this can be your very last piece, and you can paint it like a sky blue, and it'll show through right here behind the sun and behind the mountains, all right? So again, those pink holes are only to be used if you're hanging this on the wall. If you're not hanging it, you're going to ignore or delete those, okay? Also, if you're going to use the slotted stand that was at the very beginning, you're not going to use this piece at all, okay? Now, this last orange piece, you can use this as a spacer somewhere in the design if you want, but here's what it's made for. If you're going to hang it on the wall, I want you to cut this piece and put it in front of this back piece, because what's going to happen is when you put it right there, that's going to create a space where the head of the screws or the nails can go in behind. So in other words, this piece right here will be on top of that orange spacer, and then the back will be at the very back. And this piece right here will hide those screw heads, and those will be behind the mountains and behind the sun. So let me just undo there again. I hope that makes sense. I'll say this one more time. Do not cut this one if you're not going to hang it on the wall. Don't cut the screw holes. Just ignore those, delete those, whatever you want to do. And only use this piece if you're going to hang it on the wall, because you need that as a spacer. So one more time, you can skip any one of these layers that you want, or you can put them all together for a great look. It's up to you. One last thing before we go, I just want to point this out. If you want to resize this, 2 tips. Number 1, I would not make it any smaller than this, because if you do, things like the branches on these trees and the moose's antlers there will probably burn out and break. So I wouldn't get it any smaller than this. However, you can make it as big as you want. And if you want to make it really big, just select everything together, zoom way out, select everything together, and size these all together so that they all match, okay? Even if you're not going to use them all, size them all together, and then you can use whichever ones you want, delete the rest. Here's what I do. I've made several of these now. I load this entire file right here onto my Glowforge or my Mira, whichever one I'm using, and then I size it to whatever I want, and then I simply drag the pieces I don't want off to the side out of the working area, okay? And then I only cut the ones that I want. And I just drag the rest of them off the working area. You can delete them out of the working area too, whatever you want. I think you're going to love this. You guys have fun with it. Use whatever layers you want. I would love to see what you make. And please let me know if you have any questions, but I think this is going to be beautiful. Have a great time and let me know if I can help you.